Hey, familia y amigos. Jay El Maestro, founder of Don't Limit Your Identity podcast, Teachable Moment series. Today, we have an amazing guest coming on board, but I want to also share, she is also our sponsor for this episode. We have Roxane Padilla, founder and owner of RP Financial. Just going to share a little bit about them. Their mission is to empower families, business owners, and retirees to build a secure financial future through personalized strategies tailored to their unique goals. Their experienced team is dedicated to helping make smart, informed decisions, whether you're growing a family, running a business, or planning for retirement. They provide clarity, confidence, and peace of mind every step of the way, protecting your wealth and maximizing its potential. With RP Financial by your side, your goals become achievable milestones on the path to lasting success. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Roxane Padilla, once again, founder of RP Financial. Roxane, thank you for being on our show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah. Not just because I sponsored, but this has been in the works already, so I'm super excited.
Absolutely, thank you for that.
I love what you're doing here. I love the people you've had on so far, so I feel like they're able to share all the different work that's happening here within the city, and then I think it's really been impactful for people listening, like myself. So I'm super excited to be here.
I appreciate that. I'm excited to have you here. Like you said, it has been in the works, and I recently announced sponsorship, so I appreciate the blessing, and thank you for being willing to do that. But I know that you have an exciting story, and I definitely want our guests to be able to hear more about that. As I've shared, it's all about God, family, and everything else. And you and I share those core values. So
absolutely.
With that, why don't we get started with a little bit about who you are? Share about your upbringing, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Chicago. I'm a Chicago girl forever and ever. So a lot of who I am, I believe, is rooted in that. I think if you're from Chicago, no one loves Chicago more than Chicagoans. So everything I do is rooted in that. And so I was raised by a single mother. My parents were married and divorced. But my mom was central to me and my sister. I have a younger sister. So we joke that I'm her sister mom, because when my mom had to work 2 jobs, I was there picking her up, making sure she did homework, cooked. And I think a lot of people probably did that, right? And, I'm 40s is where I'm at right now. So I feel like people in that age, it was really about helping the family. And so my mother was central to everything that I become at this age, but became a mom at 19, so that really also shaped a lot of my drive and goal. I think when you have children, anyone that has children is going to have children, your mind shift sets and it changes to have this person who needs me, right? It's no longer yourself, but it's this individual. And so I always had a strong desire to help others in everything I did. Even in high school, I did a lot of volunteer work. And so prior to getting pregnant, I was at UIC in like a pre-med program. Like I was a biology major because I wanted to be a doctor. Like I had always wanted to be a doctor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, always. I had the little Fisher-Price headset thing checking everyone's heartbeat. And so you say, okay, well, that can't be the trajectory, right? Because again, your mind shifts to now it's this person. So I was like, well, what can I do? And so I still stayed in healthcare, was more like management, because I figured that was something that I can do, find. In the same token, I was a medical assistant, so I was able to figure out a career while I was still in school. And that laid the foundation for, I think, everything that has happened to my life to date. I was able to meet a very influential doctor in the Humboldt Park community. I was working in their school-based health center. Her name is Dr. Virginia Bishop. She's no longer with us, but she really pushed, like, you are Latina, you are a mother. I don't care how young you are. If you're alone, you're going to get your education. And so her coupled with my mother was very much like, you need to go to school, right? And it's interesting now that I think about that, because it's changed now, where there's so many professions that you can find a path to. But like when I was growing up, school was it. Like that was it. And so that's what I did. It took me a little bit because I was working full time, but I got a degree at Loyola University.
Wow, very impressive.
And then I said, well, I'm going to get a master's. And so I got a master's at the University of Arizona. And
Inspiring.
Yeah. Well, I was on the floor a lot crying.
I bet.
I was still working full time, and at that point, I had 3 children.
Okay.
Because I met my husband along that path, and he's an amazing individual, and we had children. So, it's interesting that you have these experiences and you meet these people along the way, and so by just pure chance, one of the students that I knew from Clemente when I worked there reached out and said, "Do you have life insurance?" And I said, "What a weird question to ask me."
Right.
I think through work, right? Like many of us, I think, if you're not proactively searching it, then you just think you have, or you don't have. And so, he said, "Let's sit." And I have a soft spot for all of the kids that I worked with at the high schools. And so I said, "Sure, if that's what you're doing, like, let's hear it." And
so this was a student at Roberto Clemente High School asking you this?
Yeah.
Was he a senior, I imagine?
No. He had already graduated.
Okay.
So the kid that I knew was not this man presenting this to me, because I think we in our best intentions try not to have those preconceived notions of people we knew. Right. And so I knew something was different because of how he had a suit. He was very, like, the language was different, and I was like, okay, well, what's going on?
So you worked in Roberto Clemente High School?
I did for 10 years. So I worked in their school-based health center. They had a they still have a school-based health center, I believe. And so this was a place where it's not like a school nurse. I mean, they literally did physicals. If you were sick, stitches. I mean, it was a health center. And so I worked there.
I'm sure at one point they really needed you there.
Yeah. Well, my first day there was like a fight that broke out in the middle of like Western and Division, and I was like, oh, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. Totally not reflective of the staff or the students there, because one bad apple doesn't make the whole tree, right? So they were amazing. But then I started doing health education in the classroom because there was a disconnect. Much like I think a lot of things, including finance, right? It's like what you're taught, what you don't have access to, the resources. So we were in the school and we're like, okay, they're coming to us already with the problem. But if we can be in the classroom and take preventative measures, that might maybe decrease what some of the kids were coming in for. Not everything, right? You get sick, but there were just other things that were happening. And so I was able to do education in the classrooms. And I really found a passion in teaching. I didn't want to be a teacher, but I said I really like educating.
Now, were you educating on the health space?
On the health space, yeah. So we were doing sexual health, nutrition. Like that was the area we were focused on, because we were seeing that was the disconnect when they were coming to us already. Because we had kids coming in that already had diabetes, and then other things too. And so I really found a love of teaching and educating in that way. And in that, you have to review curriculums, and you have to understand the community dynamic and needs assessment. And so I was able to do all of these beautiful things that allowed me to work with organizations who did like policy and advocacy work. And prior to me transitioning into this career, I was doing healthcare research within those same communities on the west and south sides with community health centers. And
so this student that was there came back to talk to everyone, or did he just have a relationship with you and remembered you and said, hey, I got to come back and see Roxane, or how did that work out?
Yeah, so how we, social media has kept us in touch with people that we might not have otherwise kept in touch with. And so I've always made it a point to keep in touch with students who I had a relationship with. And so this was one of the students I had a relationship with. So he just contacted me. Not attached to anything specific to what I was doing at that point, just saying, hey, we should talk. And it was probably for his training purposes, right? Like he probably needed to get his bearings in what he was doing. But I was floored. I was like, I didn't know it did that. I didn't know it did that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my house if my husband dies,
Right. Yeah.
Because he really was able to break down things that I didn't think about. And we tend not to, right? It's not day-to-day things we think about, because we just sometimes don't take the time to really assess, are we okay? Like if something were to unexpectedly happen, are we in a sufficient place? And it's not like your job and how much you make. Like, that's a separate thing, right? Like, those are the day-to-day things. It's the, if I lose a spouse, if I get sick with cancer, if, a child of mine gets hurt, if, I'm about to retire, do we have the things that we need to sufficiently live? So when he did that, I was like, wow. I was not intrigued just for myself, for my future and my goals and what me and my husband wanted, but also like, who's teaching you this, right?
Right, yeah.
Because I didn't get taught this.
Let me ask you, did you guys meet in person, or was this all over the phone?
No, it was in person. There was a coffee shop on Milwaukee. I don't think it's there now. Yeah, it closed a while ago. I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, we met in a coffee shop. That's why I said he was suited and booted. He was like ready for the show. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And it, first of all, as someone who was in the school, to see the growth in someone, that was beautiful, right? Because that's what we do it for. At least you hope people who are in that space, you do it because you want to see people thrive, right? Even in the worst circumstances they might live in, you still want to see them thrive. And if you could say that you had even a small piece in that, that's rewarding for me, right? So I'm not going to say like him coming in this was me, but that he felt the comfort to present that was very humbling and honoring to me, because he could have chose anybody, right? And so I'm always going to be someone's champion, right? Like I want to be that for people. And so, was
there something that he said, and I'm asking all this because you and I share similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I find that, and as you know, I'm in the multi-line agency business space. So primarily most people that call my agencies for auto and home.
Right.
When it comes down to life insurance, it's a much more challenging conversation to have. It's not easy, but how was it more your loving and care, seeing that he was a student, you were just more open to just, hey, you know what, I'm willing to meet with you? Or did he say something that really triggered the interest for you to say, okay, we need to meet?
Yeah, definitely the love and care.
Okay.
But I will say the initial question, it threw me off, because I was like, what? And then I didn't have an answer for it. And I don't like that, right? Because I'm like, through work, right? And then I was like, okay, through work, but what do I have at work? I don't know what I have at work. I don't know the company, so that question just started triggering other questions for me. And then I'm very much, I need stability, and that seemed very unstable. And so, yes, the initial was because I have a loving, caring nature, and I want to support you. And I think anybody that knows me, like, if you're doing Mary Kay, fine, give me a lipstick. I'll put it on, because I know what that is. I know what that is to want to be in a venture, and it requires you to, hit people. I understand what that is, because I've done that. I've done that before. So, but the initial line of question was, I'm not prepared. And at that point, our son was 1, our daughter was 3, our son was 13. So all minors. Okay. We had I believe we were just purchasing a house, or maybe on the verge of purchasing a home. And I'm thinking, okay, we're living right now with 2 incomes. Yeah. Okay, if something happens, I don't want it to, but if something happens, what then happens to everything we just put into this life we've built?
Correct. And
so that's where the conversation took a turn for me, because initially it was just me supporting you. Mm-hmm. And then it turned into, wow, I'm not as educated as I am. I'm not prepared financially. And I think that's the confusion. People confuse, like, oh, you're educated or you have a good job, to being prepared. And so that's why I'm always telling people, I don't care if you make $12 an hour or $500 an hour. Mm-hmm. Planning is planning. You should always have your goals, your wants, your needs, like all of that should be planned in a way that and there's no confusion. And then for those that maybe don't feel they have enough, you work your way up. But how can you work your way up if you don't know where you're starting from?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like a race. They tell you where to start and you know where to go. And then you just, and you twist and turn along the way. And that's just life. That's with anything.
So you met with the student. He shared with you the value of having something outside of work, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then from there, is that what sparked your interest to say, hey, you know what? I need to learn more what you're doing. Yeah. I have a serving heart. I love to teach. People need to know more about this information. Is that kind of where it led to where you're at today?
Totally, because it wasn't and I know everyone functions differently, right? Because, again, we have similar backgrounds. But it was more education based, so I didn't feel like I was getting sold on something, right? It was like, well, what would you want if you had a magic wand? You know, how would you want your children to be set up? What would you want protected? And then we teased down a little bit more. Okay, well, what would you need to have that? What do you currently have? Like it was really a dialogue, and so that was the education piece where I'm like, I wanna learn what you're learning, because I know other people don't know this like I didn't.
Right.
And that's what set that off. And that was 2018.
Okay.
And so that set me on a path where something that just started as a side hustle, right? Which I think we all try to find, like, what's our niche? What can we do? Do I sell a shirt? Do I make a mug? You know, do I sell Avon? Whatever it was, I was like, well, I got 3 kids and they need to eat, right? And I make good money, but I have these bills. So if I can do this on the side and it's something I'm passionate about and I'm educating, it's great. And it just morphed into this thing that if you would have asked me this 10 years ago, would I thought I wouldn't be in the healthcare space, I would have been like, you're crazy. I love healthcare. Right. I love community health. I love community advocacy. And I still do, because financial health is community health, right? We understand that. But to do it in the manner I'm doing it now, there's no way. And I love that, because I feel some people think, well, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can't try something new. And there's a fear to that, right? Because what if it doesn't work? And that was my thing too. Like when I adventured to do this full time and say, this is my life now, there's always that fear, like I could fall flat on my face. And so what do I do? But I felt that I had established enough of a career prior to that, that I could always go back to that. Okay. But it's something I prayed on. And I said, God, I'm burning at both ends. Because now at this point, I'm full force seeing clients and educating in that way, and I'm still working my 9 to 5, and I still have my babies. And I said, I cannot do this. And I said, Lord, if this is the path you want, just put it in my heart, reveal it. If this was just a season, that's okay too, right? Because sometimes the season can be good, but if God says that's it, it's it. Like we have to understand that and hear that. And I felt like he was pushing me to say, I got you. Because he does in all aspects of my life. He will always have me, even when I feel alone, even when I feel like I'm drowning, I'm not, right? Because he's lifting me up. And he sure does. He does. And
well, you're still helping people in the health space, because most people one of the top reasons of stress is finance.
Oh man,
so if you could help them put that right plan in place, you're helping control that stress level and bringing that down, so the health is in a better space.
Yeah.
So.
And starting it younger, right. I think a lot of us say, okay, well, we'll start all of this when I'm done with school, or I have a job, or I'm married. And it really should begin. I mean, if it was up to me and I love what you're doing, that would start like 5th grade, kindergarten. Yes. My mom, okay, she's such an OG. Like, she's my everything. May she rest in peace. But she, when I was little, got me like a piggy bank. And then what she did was she folded pages and made lines. Literally like a checkbook, and said, okay, date.
Wait, what age again was this?
I was like maybe 6, 7. I was little.
Wow.
And it had debit and credit. And she said, okay, when you have a credit, it means you put it in the piggy bank. If you have a debit, it means you took it out. And I want you to put what you have. And every time you take it out, I need you to, so you understand and you're keeping track of your money.
Love that.
6, 7, right? Like, right. And of course, I was like, I don't want to do that. You know, like, why? You know, as an adult, though, I understand what she was telling me to do, right? How, you know, you have to track what's coming in, what's coming out, how much of that percentage of your check is going to the actual needs of your life, utilities, rent, mortgage, and how much is it going to maybe the fun stuff, and do you need to scale back, right? Like all these principles that my mother taught me, because in her generation it was very much the saving generation, right? It was like, you save for a rainy day, right? Not 3 to 6 months. It's like you pay your bills and you save, right? Because investing wasn't, I mean, again, investing has been investing, but it wasn't something that she was taught either from my grandparents, who came here not speaking English at 19. Their thing was like, go to school, you know, make a, you know, get a job, right? So you have that principle of understanding that. And I'm thinking, gosh, what if we taught this to other kids? Now, not like a checkbook, right? That's very old timey for us because that's what we did, right? Checks. My kids don't even know what a check is.
But you know, I actually
But
think it's still good to teach them because a
yeah,
lot of these kids are paying fees to the bank. Because one of the biggest things I used to see at the bank all the time was, oh, the ATM allowed me to take it out. And they're forgetting that the ATM may not recognize there's a pending transaction, there's stuff that's happening.
yeah,
So it may not have to be a checkbook, but how do you reconcile? How do you make sure that you know what,
absolutely.
like you said, what's coming in, what's going out, to avoid. So that's one part of my mission is to teach the youth not how do we avoid giving the banks more money because
That
they're already
part,
profitable
all
as
of
it is,
that.
and they're just making
They
more
are
and more.
making
Yeah,
hand over fist with everybody's money, your money, your money, everybody's money,
right.
and they get to take loans at 1%. Meanwhile, they're giving us car notes at like
But
7. You know what I
and
mean?
that's considered good because you may have someone that gets like 10 to 15%.
Yeah, yeah.
I sold cars for a little bit, and you would see like, oh my god, the amount of interest that they charge is it's wild.
It is. It is. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me why that's not like there are just things that are life skills that we should know, and I see it with my own kids. There's a huge push for the STEAM, and I think that's important. All of that's important, but like I want my kids to know these fundamentals as well. It's
Right.
like as adults, these are just functioning things they have to know how to do. You know, work on a car, like
Yeah.
like things that are equally important. And so, you know, it was the passion to say I have a gift of not just wanting to be a servant leader to others, but also to know the experiences I had within my own home have shaped the decisions that I've been able to make, good and bad, right? I'm not going
Right.
to sit here and say every financial decision. I
Oh
was
no.
20s and the
Same for
credit card
me.
has been used and the letters have been sent to the house, okay? I've had a knock on my door, right? And those are all things that you go through and you learn and you live and you don't make the same mistakes. And so I sit with adults who, even when I ask them, okay, what's the money going out? Like, what are your utilities? They're like, I think, and I'm like, you think? Like, you
Right.
gotta, where's your sheet? Like, pull up the thing, you know, because we're just living. We're not planning, you know, and it doesn't have to feel like a chore, right? It can be
Right.
something that's exciting, that gives you purpose and goals to reach. But if you're just shooting with no target, you're going to shoot somebody.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I like
Calm
what you
down.
said, the goals, because the goals would create the excitement behind it.
Yeah,
Because now you know, okay,
absolutely.
what is it tying it to, and then
Yeah.
how is it going to help me and benefit me? Because I've had many that say, oh, well, you know what, I love to buy things. It makes me feel happy. I said that nothing wrong with that. It's just knowing how to create that budget
Yeah.
and how to put it in place, and then you know you could create that as part of your budget, like
Yeah.
my fun things, and then but put something in place to have a good plan, like you said.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was listening to, I think he used to be a financial advisor. I'm not sure exactly what he does now, but he said that Jewish people have certain principles when it comes to money, and that one of the principles is that they're not cheap. They have intent and purpose behind every purchase, right? So they might not spend that 1,600 on the Gucci bag, but they'll spend the 1,600 on the experience of a trip with their family, because those are like core memories that they can hold on to. And it's so true, because I even think about my children, right? Like my daughter just had a birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday to her.
Thank you. She's
How old?
12.
All right.
My little ladybug. She's my
All
only
right.
daughter,
Okay.
right? She's we're learning with her. I have two boys, older and younger. So my oldest is 22 and my younger one just turned 10.
Right.
They're
God
girls
bless.
are Thank you. Girls are different.
They are different,
They're
yeah.
different. I'm a girl, but she's a different girl. Or maybe I was that way too and I just didn't know, right? But she got, we bought her presents and she got shoes and she'll get things. And I'm thinking, if I ask her in 3 years what she got when she was 12, she's not going to remember. But she will tell you about our Puerto Rico trip like every year. And she was smaller,
You're right.
And so that is so important to me and impactful. So when I'm having these conversations, like you said, like if that's what makes you happy, that's great, right? But you have to plan for that, right? You have to plan and so that it feels good and rewarding at the end of it.
Well, I like what you shared is having the right intent.
Yeah.
And for me, memories are, like you said, they're treasures. You can't, those are things that you're going to keep. I think when you're sharing that, I'm thinking about the trip that it was one of the shortest trips we ever took. We went to California Thursday and came back home Sunday. And we
Oh,
went to go
wow.
see Fluffy. He had
Oh,
the comedian.
yeah.
He had a Netflix special at the Dodge Stadium,
Okay.
and that was Saturday. So we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? What do we want to see while we're here? So we went to Malibu, Hollywood, everywhere. This was Friday, and then Saturday we went to one other beach. We're a big family about beaches and palm
Yeah.
trees. See the Boricua within
The
us.
huepa.
Exactly. There you go.
I threw it in
You
there.
threw it in there. But when we got back, my kids could not stop talking about it. And I'm like, man, this was such it felt stressful because of all the stopping and
Because you're
going.
going, yeah, of course.
But to this day, they were like, that's the best trip we ever had. And I was like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be that impactful, but it was.
Yeah.
So the memories, like you said, and going back to, okay, what did you get as a gift at this age? You're not going to remember.
No, but and I think about those core memories for me too. I will say though, I do remember the pair of Grant Hills my mom got me when I was 12, and that's only because I was wearing Pro Wings up until that point.
Damn, Pro Wings. I haven't heard that in a while.
Again,
Yeah.
I'll be 42 this year, so so getting those Grant Hills.
Well, I had a pair of ponies, if you remember those.
Oh, yes, I remember those too.
So,
But on the same token, my mom took me to my first concert that same night. I saw TLC and Boys to Men. Right now, I remember the shoe because it was.
I
my
think you're
first...
tying it to the Boys to Men and all that because you made sure how you
Exactly.
went to the event.
I looked fly.
You had your
Did the
Grant
whole
Hills.
picture
There you
with
go.
the whole backdrop and everything
Okay.
with my mom. But so, right, so it's those memories, and so it's important to figure out what's important to you. And I ask people that all the time, like if you had to list your priorities, like what's important to you.
That's
And
a key
sometimes,
question.
yeah, and sometimes it is the material things, and there's nothing wrong with that. Every household, every individual, there's no right or wrong to that. What it is you should never put yourself into debt, a depreciating asset, right? Into it. Now is the way to build to that, and sometimes, interesting enough, it's not the budgeting or anything; it's the income, right? And so that's why I think there's been this huge increase in push of people having side things or trying to figure out side things, because even with the best budgeting and the tightest of knots, you're still like, why am I feeling like I'm drowning? Like I don't have those things. I don't go on these trips, right? And so on the flip side of that, I also help people figure that out, right?
Love that.
Do you need an extra 300, 400? Would that be life-changing for you? And for some individuals it can. Some individuals are like, no, I need an extra 2,000, and I'm like, then you need to get a license, and, and I can help you with that, right? So there's that mentoring piece.
So when you say a license, can you touch more on that?
Yeah, so I am licensed by the state of Illinois to offer insurance grade products. That's what I do. The beauty of that is that once I'm licensed in my home state, I can be licensed in any state. So I'm licensed in 16 other states.
Oh, wow.
So
I
I'm
didn't even
able
realize
to,
that.
yeah, I'm able to help people in Florida, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Ohio, Michigan.
Okay.
There's more. I don't want to take up our time going to the states, but and that's beautiful because I run a primarily virtual practice. So if I have a client in California, I can see a client in California. If I have one here, I can still see them virtually or meet. But it's been a beautiful thing because, as I stated, it just started as something as just, extra money to be able to do those things, be intentful and impactful with the trips that we love. So we're a traveling family. We love taking trips. We're going to Orlando next week. We'll be in Mexico in 2 more weeks. We'll be in New York the following week. Like, so we go.
A lot of trips.
Yes. So that's why I tell my babies, like, do you really need that $20 Robux? You really don't. That $20 you can use to spend when we go somewhere else. But, so like, how can I, add extra income in my home that isn't affecting what I'm already doing with my 9 to 5? And this was great because it was able to be flexible. I was able to do it, part-time at night on the weekends. But as I mentioned, the need grew for the clients that I was getting. And now it was like, okay, now it's every day.
So almost. At what time did you decide, what year did you decide to just go all in and walk away from your healthcare career?
Yeah, so I had started thinking about it probably 2021. So COVID really changed the model in which I was seeing clients.
Okay.
And so being able to be more virtual allowed me to increase the capacity, right? Because when I was seeing in person, and you get it, there's like, I got to drive there. I got to drive back, the time with the client. So one appointment could be 3 hours just from the travel there back and then the appointment. Being virtual, it's like boom, 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 boom. So because I was able to increase the capacity in that way, and I guess I could have always done it that way. It was just we weren't talking about virtual things before COVID.
Correct.
we weren't. Everyone was in person.
We had access to it, but it just became more aware
Exactly
after the fact. Yeah.
And for me, for the trajectory of my business, it really made an impact. And so I was seeing more clients, so I was working more on top of still working. And so about 2022, I said, okay, we put the money away, right? Because that was my thing. When you go from being a W-2 employee to a 1099, it is all on you. It is 100% on you. Everything, like every minute. There's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to make sure, okay, on those times where it might be slow, that we have a nest egg. And so that 3 to 6 month emergency fund is important to have for anybody, but more so for me going into that movement. And so I said, okay, we have that. I definitely prayed on it. I talked to my husband too, because I want to be like, okay, bye. Right. Because that's a shift too. When you are both people who are employed by someone, you have similar hours. It's different than saying, no, this is ours now. Like we are taking ownership of this. And I wanted to make sure he was okay with that. My husband's amazing. He's so supportive. I tell him all the time, he's like my biggest cheerleader. Like we love each other so much,
That's
and
so good.
Even when we're mad at each other, like we get over it very quickly. I don't have a reason why. His face is just so cute. Like I can't be mad at him for too long. So
he's a great person. Definitely had the opportunity to meet him. So
yeah. And guy. So he was like, if you want to do this, I'm tired of seeing you tired. Do it. And if it doesn't work, you still have your careers and your degrees. Like, you have something to fall back on. And so I went full-time 2022. Yeah, 2022. And then a month later, he gets hurt at work.
Oh, no.
So, there was like a little comfort in saying, okay, he's working still, even though we have this nest egg, then he gets hurt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, God, wait, did I hear the wrong answer? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did I hear the wrong thing? And we made it work. I mean, he was dealing with what he was dealing with, and that was very hard emotionally for us because he loved what he did. But on the flip side, he himself was also doing e-commerce on the side. So the kind of career he had, he would get laid off because he was a laborer in the winter. So he's like, I need to do something. I was like, well, make some money. I don't know, Right. So he found the e-com space. And so he had already been doing that, but because he was working, he couldn't do it as much as he wanted to. So again, sometimes God has to push you through the door because you're just standing staring at it. And so I don't know if he feels this way, but I felt like while it wasn't ideal, maybe that was God pushing you to the greater purpose he had for you. Awesome. Maybe this wasn't it. You're great at what you do, again, but maybe that's not it. And so within that time, he was able to like just learn and develop that craft. And now that's what he does full time, not going back to the original job. And so now we're both entrepreneurs. We both understand that. So it's nice too, to share that, with him, and we share our businesses with each other, even though, it's independent, but together at the same time. Right. And so it also was that in 2023, my mom got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so she had already had an autoimmune disease, and she was just getting like worse. Like the treatment she was doing wasn't helping. And I was like, I don't know if that's it, Mom. Yeah. I don't know what it is. And then she got hurt and, finally did the x-ray or the MRI, and there was just like lesions everywhere. Like to the point where the doctor was like, we're going to do a full scan, but just in my experience, I have a feeling it metastasized and it's all over. And it was in her spine, it was in her shoulder, her heart, her pelvic. They had to do a fusion to remove the tumor because the tumor was so big it broke a vertebrae, which is what the pain she was experiencing. And then, if you've ever been in that situation, I think about me having the ability to be with my mom. Right? Doesn't mean I wasn't concerned about my own finances, because obviously if I'm sitting in a hospital with you, I'm not sitting with clients, but I had the ability to do that. I had the ability to be there when I needed to be there, see the clients when I needed to see clients. I even trained a bunch of agents once in the waiting room.
Wow.
Because, it's the flexibility I had. And so I think if I had my 9 to 5, even though it was an amazing company I was with, they still have their expectations from their employee. And I was able to just be with my mom and take care of my mom the way she would have taken care of me. I was able to be at the hospital every day. I was able to talk to the doctors, vet out the hospice companies, really be an advocate, because that's what my mom was. My mom, I'm going to cry because she was amazing. Yeah. And she helped everybody. Like her funeral, there was so many people there that the funeral home was like, it was like standing room. Like people were flowing outside because she always helped you. Didn't matter what it was. She knew how to tune a car. She knew how to change brakes. She knew how to file paperwork because she worked in law for her whole career. Like if you needed help, she was solution based. And I very much adopted that behavior. Like we will pity party for about 2 minutes. Get it out because we're moving to the solution.
Love that.
If you want to stay in that, I'm not your girl. I am solution based. We have to move on. And my kids love and hate that a little bit about me because they're like, just let me be. And I'm like, no, we can't. How do we move forward? And that was my mother. And so to be able to be that for my mom was like a blessing.
Can't put a price to that.
No, you can't. And I really think this entrepreneurship allowed me to do that. And it also allowed my husband to support me in that way too, because obviously now I'm not in the house. Mm-hmm. So him not working those crazy hours he used to work, because he would leave the house at 4 and sometimes not get back until 7 at night. He was able to do the things at the house that I couldn't, pick the kids up, drop the kids off, feed them, take them to their activities. Knowing that I was there taking care of my mom, and when she moved into hospice, I spent the night, my sister spent the night. I have an amazing aunt who helped, my stepfather was amazing, but I was able to be there as much as I could and take a call when I needed to, and then see my clients around that. And I was very honest with clients, like, this is what's happening in my life, and until Lord comes to take her home, this is what it is. And so she passed away January of 2024, so last year.
Sorry.
Thank you. And she had a life insurance policy. Did she still need it? Probably not, right? We're older. Me and my sister are older. We're married. We have our own homes. But she felt it was important for a legacy piece, right? And that's something I don't think we talk about as a community, is how are we building that generational, not wealth, but legacy in our communities to have the resources. Because what my mom did for me and my sister was allow us not just time to grieve, but to make decisions that are only going to be impactful to her grandchildren and their grandchildren, if we're smart about it, right? Like, if I went ham crazy, bought like a Lambo, which I'm not saying she left me that much, but you know what I mean? Yeah. That's a depreciating asset unless I'm going to sell it to someone or make it where I'm using it as rentals, right? So my mind has just shifted in this world that I've been in. And so what I know I need to do now is share that with others. Now, whether you take that, it's like anything. I can bring the water to you. I could put ice in it, put a little lemon. If you want to drink it, that's on you, but you cannot say you never got the information. And a lot of people, and a lot of people in our community haven't. Like, I'm one person, and there's tons of people like yourself and others that do it, but it's
so unfortunate that they don't, leverage the information that's being shared.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Sometimes it's overload, right? So someone that wants the information, we live in the age of chat GPT and Google, and then it's like, boom, all this comes at you and you're like, okay, but what's the credible source? Right. And I also want to provide that credibility for people too. I want them to know that if they come to me, it's something that I've studied and I've crafted, and I tailor it to you, because you are you with your wife and your children, and you live in your home, and I'm a wife and a mother and I live in my home, but our needs are very different. And so it's not a cookie cutter. It's not a, here it is. It's not a one size fits all.
Well, going back to your mother, it sounds like she was very amazing, and it sounds like you're also carrying that legacy for her and impacting the community that you serve and your family, and the teaching that she taught you, you're teaching your kids. So awesome with that.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope she's proud of me. I think we're all like still the little kid that wants to make their parents proud, if you've had that relationship. And that's the best thing I can do, is just continue that legacy of helping others. And I'm just doing it a little differently.
Yeah. Well, here's a little legacy keychain for you. So
Okay, swag.
there you go.
What?
A little something.
I want a
Nothing big.
shirt. Hold on, wait.
I got to find a shirt for you.
Okay, I want a shirt. No, I love this. Thank you so much.
You touched on, family. You touched on God. You touched about, going from the healthcare industry to your business today. For the viewers, can you just touch a little bit more in detail? Like, I'm sure they took away life insurance, but what else? Because I know that there's more that you do outside of life insurance.
Yeah.
In the financial space, of course.
Yeah, so it's really a comprehensive company that we aim to run. And so the idea is using the tenets of understanding how we protect you through risk management. And that can be you as the biggest asset, right? Again, looking at more of like that life insurance piece, but also wealth accumulation strategies, right? Embedded in these insurance grade products, there's the ability for individuals to increase their capacity for retirement, to provide financial support for their children to go to college, protect their home, right? Like I think a lot of times when we think about homeowners insurance, that's protection for the banks, right? Like the bank wants to know my money is okay. Right. But what happens to you as the owner if something happens, right? Are you making sure that legacy you're building within that asset of real estate is protected, right? So that's the risk management piece. The wealth accumulation piece is really how do we maximize growth within your portfolio and being diverse. And this is separate from like investing in stocks and that's one way, right? And that's the way that other people specialize in. It's not my specialty in terms of that, but we do have strategies where you can get some of the growth of the market with no loss, which is nice for someone who is maybe in a space where they're like, yeah, I'm not really trying to take that, Dow Jones dip, and there are people like that, right? And so again, that's when we talk and we tease through like, where's your tolerance at? Like, where do you feel comfortable at? What are you already doing? And how can we supplement or provide alternative options, which is the third piece that we work in, is looking at alternative earnings opportunities, right? Using more of the real estate space. So we have people who are looking for bridge loans that need funding for projects. And we have clients who say, in the saving generation, I've got this in my savings and I'm making 1%, but I don't want to put it in a stock because I want to keep it because I'm a saver, right? And so how do we generate a fixed return, a higher fixed return without that loss? And we have securities we put in place. And so we offer that. And then we also offer prepaid legal service subscription. And that's a really important piece too, because along with the finance, we think, how do you protect that? Right. And there's so many of us that we could probably have either said, I've needed to talk to a lawyer, I wish I had someone that knew law, or I really don't know what my rights are. And so this service allows someone easy, accessible, handheld access to a lawyer at any time in any situation for a slew of things. So when you think of like estate planning, that's a really important piece. It makes no sense that you've invested all of this into your home. You've amassed this wealth through your investment piece or these insurance grade products, and then you don't have it properly structured for the people who you want it to benefit. And if you've ever had to go through probate court, it is the worst. I spoke with a woman who said she had to spend $20,000 in court fees just to get her mom's building back because the mom didn't have it either in her name as a beneficiary on a transfer of death or through a trust. Because wills are not as ironclad. I mean, if I had a will, you could come to my husband and be like, no, we did that podcast. She said I get everything. Wow. And like, you could take him to court, like, even though he's my husband, right? And so even when we talk about estate planning and those things, this service is really a powerful way for people who think they can't attain or afford a lawyer to have affordable legal support.
You're right. I mean, did she share how long it took to even go through that?
She said a long time. So I would think $20,000 in fees and courts, And
I asked because there's an attorney I know that he was sharing. They were still in court for 10 years of probate, and because they could not come to an agreement, it was still going. So it could be a true nightmare.
Lengthy, yeah.
And so families should really hone into this and take advantage of the opportunity because, like you said, it's a monthly fee, but the wealthy do it. It's basically a retainer.
Yeah.
Right. What they have for a law firm. I know I have prepaid legal, and it's helped me in many occasions. And
helps me. It has helped me
great,
as well.
so.
Yeah, and it takes again like that stressor, right? If you get if a sheriff comes to your door and you're like, well, for what? I don't know what happened. The stressor of just saying, you know what, I have this service. Let me call in, send the paperwork, and let me talk to someone so they can at least explain it. Right. Just as maybe finance can seem like a different language. I mean, law is a totally different beast, and so having that at your fingertips is something that for me is priceless, because I can use it as many times as I want. It's different than maybe like I was joking with a client yesterday. I was like, I pay for Netflix more than I pay for this prepaid legal. And
Good point.
I don't watch Netflix every day, but you don't see me trying to cancel it. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And so it's just about providing these resources. So all of the consultations I provide with clients are free. And again, we really tailor the conversation to what is your need. So as we're talking through, then we can kind of tease down, okay, based on what your goal is, based on where you're at, and based on where I can see maybe some areas of support, I think these things would be beneficial. Okay. And then depending on, where the person, is comfortable at, then we can move forward and see, what would be the best, solution for them. And I love that approach because, like I said, I'm not cookie cutter. So if you meet with me, it's probably going to be twice. First time to educate and get to know you and do that. And then the second time to really present these real life solutions that will reach you to your goal. Okay. And then it's a forever relationship with me. I mean, the goal would always be that I build the company up enough where my children will want to do this. I don't know. My oldest right now is a laborer, like his father. And that's the beauty of what I love we did. My husband's a laborer. I've gotten degrees. I've been in healthcare. We're both entrepreneurs now. So I also feel like that's something I share with my kids to say, you can do whatever you want. The goal obviously would be that they would want to take mommy and papi's business and run with it. So I think
it's every parent's goal.
Right?
No, for me, it's the same. Yeah. My two oldest are definitely not going to pursue it. Right. So I know that. My youngest, I don't know. I mean, she's, as of now, 12 years old. She shares she wants to go into acting. So let's see.
Okay. But, I can see that, though. Yeah. Look, I mean.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
I can see that. Yeah.
But, it's the legacy we're trying to leave for them, But
yeah, definitely.
How do our viewers connect with you, whether it be through social media or if it's calling you or your website? Do you mind sharing with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love social media. Please follow. I am rpad118 on Instagram. I am the Smiley Entrepreneur on TikTok, and I'm also Roxane Medina Padilla on Facebook. You can also reach me by website. That is www.rpfinancialfreedom.com. Or you can reach me by cell 773-610-2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxane, I've enjoyed our episode and learning more about you. I didn't realize the background in the medical field and how long you were in that space and the degrees that you carry. So
thank you.
Your mom, an amazing mom, may she rest in peace. I know that she impacted your life tremendously, and it sounds like not only you, but many. Is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers before we come to an end?
Yeah, I would definitely just say if this conversation has resonated with you, where you feel like even there's an ounce of just maybe I'm not sure, right? Even an inkling of like I haven't reviewed it, whether that be your own personal finance or even looking at a career change yourself, or maybe you've been in this space before and just didn't have mentorship or support. Feel free to reach out. Like I said, everything, the consultations I provide are free. The mentorship is free. I mean, I'm a child of God. That's what I do. And so I'm always here to support, and you can feel free to reach me by any of those means. I am very happy to talk to you.
So whether it be for financial needs or, hey, I want to do what you're doing. I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
They can join you and your team.
Absolutely.
And you can provide that mentorship and guidance.
Absolutely. I welcome that.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a real joy. I see why they call you the Smiley Entrepreneur.
Yeah, right? I'm like cheek to cheek, like I'm holding food in my
it brightens up the room, so I appreciate it. With that, familia amigos, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Teachable Moments with Jay El Maestro. Such a blessing to have Roxane Padilla here. As I shared in the beginning, she is the sponsor of this episode. I encourage you to reach out if you're looking to start a new career like she did. She did a side hustle. From there, you could build your practice. And if you feel like it's a passion you want to pursue full time, you can do that. So reach out to her. She shared with you what ways, and it's several ways: website, social media, and so on. So with that, we thank you. Take care, and God bless.